Hi everyone, welcome to Learning Impact. In today's lecture, we will discuss the difference between subculture and counterculture. So let's start. Okay, differences between subculture and counterculture. First, we have to look into definition of it. And what is subculture and counterculture? Subculture refers to a small cultural group within a large culture with unique identity. Means that there will be a large culture which is considered the dominant culture and a small culture group that live within that dominant culture, but they have some characteristics that is similar to large culture and some characteristics are unique which give them a distinguishing identity. So, a smaller culture group within a larger culture is called subculture, having some cluster of patterns both related to general culture of society and yet distinguishing from it. So, that is a subculture. But in case of the counterculture, it is a subculture that rejects some of the custom, norms, and values that is practiced by the dominant culture. Example of subculture is, for example, the Pakistan society has the subculture of Pashtun culture, Balochi culture, Sindhi culture, Saraiki culture. These are the subcultures that show some characteristics similar to the national culture and dominant culture, and also some characteristic that is distinguishing, like their language. This is each ethnic group has its own language. So this is a subculture. And counterculture is a term which is used for all the rebellious movements in history. For example, feminist movement. It was demanding the suffragist movement, which was demanding for the political rights of women, that is right to cast vote. So this was considered a counterculture because it was rejecting the norms and values which was practicing by the dominant culture at that time, which was that women do not have the right to cast the vote. So this is considered example of the counterculture. Okay, then nature subculture is a smaller group and it is a distinct community within a large culture. Why it is distinct? Because it has some characteristic that is unique, that give them a distinguishing identity. For example, in case of the India, there are subcultures like Muslims, Christians. um, these minorities are distinct from this dominant culture just on the basis of their religion and faith. So this is considered a subculture. Counterculture nature that it show radical rejection of the dominant culture norms, because if, for example, as we discussed the suffragist movement, so it was demanding the right of vote for women. So it was actually rejecting the dominant culture norm, which was that women do not have right to cast votes. So that norm was rejected by the counterculture. Then emergence. Subculture mostly emerges within a large culture, means that it does not boycott the dominant culture, but it emerges within a large culture, live within the same society, but having some distinguishing characteristics. While counterculture, it emerges beyond the boundary of large culture. It actually, we can say, sometime it boycott or it act as a rebellious movement against the dominant practices. For example, if we take Black Lives Matter, this was the movement which was emerged beyond the boundary of large culture of the US. So it was actually challenging the structure of the whole political system of US, which was not in favor of black people. So this could be considered of example of counterculture. Unique characteristic. How subculture and counterculture is unique. Subculture actually provide a way for like-minded peers, because those people who are living in this community, for example, the Pashtuns subculture of the Pakistan society, so all Pashtun, they are like-minded peers because they share the same practices. So it just provide a way to find the like-minded peers. So we can say that subculture is recognized by their unique style, means the unique lifestyle and norms serve as a way for individual to find like-minded peers. But in case of the counterculture, it actually opposes the status quo. The status quo is that what is happening currently or what is the ground reality, so it just opposes that. This is the counterculture. How it influences our society. Subculture is useful for the marginalized community to feel comfort, because subculture provides sense of belonging and identity. So it makes the marginalized community to feel comfort. While in case of the counterculture, it sparks societal transformation. It inspires social activism and influence policies also. So that is the counterculture. Okay, then nature of deviation. Subculture also shows some deviation from the dominant culture, but this deviation is so mild that it is not considered a culture that is against the practices of the dominant culture. Means it is just this milder form of deviation give the subculture a unique identity. But in case of the counterculture, this departure is radical. It is at extreme point. For example, the as we discussed the for example, another example, the LGBT movement, which was actually at the time when it emerged, it was challenging the dominant norms. So the gay rights and these were not a part of culture at that time, so it is considered a radical departure from the dominant culture. Then what, how the subculture and counterculture is related with the mainstream. In case of the subculture, it maintains some interaction with the mainstream culture, because as we discussed that it is a culture that lives within a large culture. So they do not boycott the dominant culture, they maintain some interaction with it, and also celebrate the dominant culture and also their own culture. But in case of the counterculture, they do not maintain interaction. In fact, they actively oppose and also challenge the values of the dominant culture. Then goals. In case of the subculture, its goal is to make a society more pluralistic and tolerant. Means that it live alongside with other subcultures, so the society become more tolerant, pluralist, and culturally diverse for communities to live. So we can see that the subculture aim is to create communities where individual can find acceptance and share interest. So it also influence fashion and slang, artistic expression, etc. But in case of the counterculture, it strives to reshape the broader societal norms and its goal of bringing about substantial change. For example, the suffragist movement, which bring a substantial change in the society, and for the first time women were allowed to cast the vote. Then attitude. Subculture attitude is like inclusive. It favor the representation of each and every community of the society, but it fosters communities of interest. But in case of that counterculture, its attitude is like defiant, means it rejects almost every representation, but they demand their own norms and values to be established. Then identity. Subculture adds to personal identity, means that, for example, a person subculture in the Indian society, for example, Muslim community, it is a subculture of the Indian society, so they have one identity, that is because of that they are citizens of India. But another identity that adds to the personal identity is that they are part of the subculture, which is the Muslim community of India. So subculture actually give them more identity, it adds to personal identity. While in case of the counterculture, they forms distinct identity. The Black Lives Matter is challenging the US norms and values, so they are actually making a distinct identity for themselves, that who are black people. So they just demand the rearrangement, or we can say challenge the structure of the US system, so they can make that their distinct identity in US society. Okay, then fade over time. Subculture might evolve with time. It means that it get promoted, or it is always in progress as time passes. But subculture do not fade. As long as the subculture exists, there will have impact of it. But in case of the counterculture, if the culture shift happen, then its influence remain even after the culture shift. For example, the suffragist movement, which was demanding a right to vote for women, even that moment has been ended, but still we can observe the impact of that moment, which is that women are today able to cast a vote. It is the impact of that moment, it's the impact of that counterculture. But in case of subculture, it is not possible. If subculture vanish, for example, if the Pashtun community in the Pakistan society get vanished, so its impact will no longer be visible to the people of coming generation. Okay, so we can say that subculture might fade over time, but counterculture impact remains. for a long time. So then what is relation to culture? Subculture embrace some norms of the dominant culture, and also they believe in their own distinguishing identity, but in case of counterculture it just reject the established norms. How it influence? It impact fashion, it impact entertainment, market, subculture, show the cultural diversity in almost every aspect of life. The entertainment industry, the fashion, for example, the lifestyle, the dresses which Pakistan community, which is the dominant culture of the Pakistan, or we can say the Balochi culture. These are different because Balochi culture is a subculture. So we can say that it impacts almost every aspect of society. While counterculture, it inspires social movements. It actually demands something, social change in society or cultural shift in society. Then integration. Subculture coexist alongside with other subculture. It is not necessary that a country or a society should have only one subculture. For example, Indian society has many subcultures. The Muslim culture, the Christian culture, and also on the basis of their caste. So subculture, it one subculture can exist along with others, so it is more integrated in nature, and is compared to a counterculture which stands in contrast to challenge norms. So it is just the culture that demands something distinguishing for themselves, and also they do not show much integration as compared to such subculture. Then language. Subculture have unique jargon and language pattern. For example, the Pashtuns of the Pakistan society, they speak Pashto, which is their unique language. But in case of the counterculture, they show counter language. For example, Black Lives Movement, their symbol is a race fist, which is the counterculture. So it is actually the counter language to challenge norms. And also, any social movement that is happen in the history, they have some music, the songs that is nature, that has a nature of rebellions, and also they have some symbol of social movement, that it may be race based or any other. So these are the counter languages which challenge the norms. Okay, then subculture socialization. How it helps in society? They provide social support, while counterculture is considered a platform for activism. How historical impact, how it impact our history. Subculture promote cultural diversity and expression, while counterculture it challenge authority. Throughout the history, if we look at it, they will serve the same functions. Acceptance. Subculture often embraces part of the cultural diversity. As subculture is not kind of rebellion, so society mostly accepts subculture as a part of the cultural diversity and celebrate these changes. But in case of the counterculture, they face resistance and conflict because it challenges authority. Then expression. Subculture share passions and hobbies, which is kind of the shared interest. But in case of the counterculture, it descends and calls for re-evaluation. It calls for the re-evaluation of the whole system. Example, for example, the immigrant group in any mother country, immigrant group is considered a subculture because it has some unique identity, and also it shows some patterns that is similar to the mother culture when they live in that country for some time. So this consider, for example, the Pashtuns in Pakistan, Muslims in India, and so on. Counterculture, for example, the suffragist movement, as we discussed, LGBT movement, Black Lives Matter, and any other social movement. So it is, counterculture is considered a term for all the political, social movements that have bring change in our society. Okay, so this was the end of our lecture. Thank you so much for watching. Leave your questions in the comment section below. And like, share, and subscribe our channel for latest lectures. Thank you.